Hey friends, today we're talking about really good altcoins where I still see a lot of potential. We're also discussing price predictions here. But before we start with that, I want to structure the video a bit. Check it out. We're discussing individual subpoints here to make it clear to you why the altcoins currently look the way they do and whether anything at all is changing in this altcoin structure that we currently have. But before we continue, you know what to do. Leave a like and a comment on the video. I rely on your support. Thank you very much, friends, for this daily support. To answer why the altcoins are so down, you have to look at a few things. Here, for example, we see the correlation between the altcoin dominance at the top and the money supply expansion below. And we can clearly see that we always needed a money supply expansion to see the drop in altcoin dominance, so that the money gets redistributed. Fresh money is the most important thing for altcoins. We are currently seeing a huge increase in the M2 money supply, which is really positive. This potentially brings new money into the markets. However, as I recently showed you, it is even more important that the M2 money supply in the USA increases. Because at the moment, most of the money is coming from the Eurozone, from China, but not yet from the USA. But this is about to change as well. We already have bets on Polymarket that we will see another expansion of money supply in the USA by May. And the chances of that are 100%. So we can already say with certainty this year we will be nicely flooded with liquidity in the markets. This money also tends to flow into risk assets like altcoins. That's why I think now is also a good time to accumulate certain altcoins. Because if we look at it, we are still in fear. You can see the market yourself, not much is really happening. We are stagnating, sure, today is a slightly better day. But we also see here that Ethereum is already outperforming some of the altcoins. This is happening because we are slowly seeing an expansion of money. And as I said, this fresh money, it tends to flow into risk assets. But we have been down for weeks now. As a result, we simply see that there is less and less interest in this market. Volatility is decreasing, you have surely noticed that too. As a result, this open interest has also significantly declined. I mean, look at this. We are seeing only about 200 million being liquidated per day. Compared to the last few weeks, that's really little. This is really because this interest is slowly fading away. That this volatility is slightly decreasing, but exactly at this moment, the market makers will come back, intervene here, and manipulate the markets again as they wish. Because in such phases, they obviously don't make as much money. They naturally want to liquidate longs and shorts. And because we have stagnated for so long, have only been falling all the time, the bears are pretty much at their end, and they can no longer create so much selling pressure. And this is always the turning point where we slip back into the positive. You can really see that here as well, on the 4-inch read index. Every time it is this low, an upward trend follows. That's just market psychology like that. We are also completely oversold on many indicators like the RSI or similar, and that slowly makes me positive again. What I really like here is on the total 3 chart, which is the chart of the entire crypto market excluding altcoins and Ethereum. Here, we tested a high time frame support zone and encountered resistance. Accordingly, we had a strong correction here, but it looks like we might see the turnaround here. And it seems like it could rise further from here. Such high time frame resistance zones are extremely significant. And I don't want to say, but on March 10th, I already marked this zone for you on the total 3 indicator. There I told you I would increase certain altcoins. And most altcoins have already gained almost 30 to 40% after this bounce. Just as an example, Chainlink has risen again here, and that's almost 30% as announced. This happened with most altcoins, so I had already accumulated some altcoins in this zone. And as I said, all of this was already communicated in the VIP trading group, so make sure to join there. Everything about it is, of course, in the description. Nevertheless, it is still a very good time to buy altcoins. Often it's even better. When the resistance is first confirmed and then you buy, so the best time to buy was 3 weeks ago and the next best time is today. We are also slowly seeing inflows into the ETFs again. Such things are enormously important as well. This results in more money flowing in here. That gives even more confidence, and so on. Now let's talk about a few projects that I currently have my eye on and where I see really good potential. We are mainly talking about projects that are future-proof due to connections to Trump, to US governments, or that can potentially exhibit certain structures. Because, I mean, let's take a look at the last 1 or 2 years. We see that the projects that have risen the most are simply projects with connections. XRP has skyrocketed. Due to this strong close connection to Trump, the same goes for Cardano. That's why these connections are more important today than ever. This is something that has changed a bit in this cycle. And in this regard, I find the Ondo project extremely interesting, for example. We are currently not expensive at all. That's why Ondo is, in my eyes, currently a very good option if one is interested in the long term. Ondo Finance is essentially an RWA platform where you can trade real estate but also trade stocks and buy tokenized gold. You can also see from the TVL that we already have real utility. The platform is super easy, created, has complete audits. It's not partnered with top people for no reason. Bloomberg, BlackRock, Bank of America. Additionally, they have an official partnership with Trump's company. I mean, what more could you want? These are the things I find extremely positive about Ondo. You also get stablecoins, interest, very important. And in the RWA sector, Ondo is the absolute market leader. And yes, probably the ultimate. And you all know there's an extreme amount of capital in this RWA sector. And this RWA sector hasn't even tapped into 1% of this capital. This sector is huge. And in my opinion, Ondo is by far the complete market leader in this regard, with these connections, with these audits, with these benefits that you already have today. An absolute top project in my eyes. And today, I brought a table for you, where I will also give my price forecast. And for Ondo, I consider potential prices of $12 in this bull run to be more than realistic. For this market cap, Ondo is still massively undervalued. Currently, I also have a project like Sui completely in view, because we have also corrected very, very well here. A correction of nearly 50% is not unusual after such a significant increase. I find Sui also interesting because of the connections, and because even Trump's company has invested here. But SUI is especially interesting because they truly have utility. The on-chain data doesn't lie, and look at this development here, how we've really worked our way up from 20 million TVL to $2 billion. That's crazy. Of course, it has decreased a bit again now, because a lot of capital has flowed out of the markets here, but in comparison, SUI is doing very, very well and is really well positioned chain-wise. Accordingly, I also have price forecasts of $20 here, which I see at least in this bull run for SUI. A similar candidate to SUI, in my opinion, is Injective. It's once again that typical faster, cheaper, but better than the other blockchains. Yes, that's Injective, but that's not what matters here. Technically speaking, there are so many faster blockchains. What matters here is the real utility. Injective has good connections and has especially built itself up very well in recent months. That's what I really like here, so let's take a look at the complete transactions. We see that in the 7-day view, we had over 92 million transactions just on the Injective network. That's why they are right behind Solana when it comes to transactions. These are very good transaction data, which I really like. And I have to say, a market cap of 1 billion for Injective is still really undervalued. I can imagine that we could easily see prices of $150 for Injective. Easily, there could be significantly more potential. Of course, it depends on how the application develops in the near future, because most of the application is this entire transaction. This came about in the last few months because Injective 3.0 was released. We now have to see how it develops further. Then I also have Tau in mind, I love this project. We already made the first videos at $50 back then. Investing heavily there is, in my opinion, the absolute best project. And here we have also seen important decisions and developments recently. We now have over 80 subnets, over 80 projects that are just building, and more are being added every day. Because nowadays it's simply cheaper to build projects on it. For a long time, it wasn't possible at all because it was just too expensive to start a new project, and so on. Now it's possible again. Now we are simply much more flexible and many more projects can be built on it. And so on. Extremely interesting development. I just think, especially with this computing scarcity, projects like Betensor are becoming increasingly important. Because with Tau, it's like this. The people who mine Betensor ultimately support this AI network and thereby provide computing power. And they earn Tau. And accordingly, this is a real fight against the graphics card shortage. That's what we want. I think in the future we will also need more and more computing capacity for these AIs. And a project like Tau is perfectly suited for that. And here, with Tau, I have price targets in mind of $2,500. And I can also prove this to you technically with charts because I don't want to read in the comments again that all these price forecasts are pulled out of thin air, and so on. Look at the previous cycles, then you'll see that these price jumps are more than realistic. With reasonable, good projects, good connections, and I can, for example, also refute this technically with charts for Tau. Because purely on the elite wave analysis, we had a big one here, a corrective 2. And when we see the breakout here, we should see the 3, another corrective 4, and then the 5. And that means we have minimum price targets in this bull run Betensor, purely from the chart analysis of $2,500.